Oliver Catlin. I'm the president of Banned Substances Control Group, BSCG, and I'm going to get into third-party certifications and how they go a little bit above and beyond banned substance testing. So with that, I'll dive right in. We've been talking with some of the leaders in third-party certification today, so I thought I would start by just outlining some of the things we do beyond just banned substances. We also get into label verification, contaminant testing, of course, and GMP audits. You see many of the seals out there offering services around products these days. And it's also important to think about how they're packaged together and what goes into them. So, for example, the USP program, the USP Verified program, ties together GMP facility audits and label verification. In the case of NSF, as David alluded to earlier, it's a pyramid type structure. So you start with GMP registration at the facility, go through contents tested and certified, and then you get the ability to add certified for sport on top of that. But even within banned substance certification, you end up dealing with a lot more than just banned substance testing. So here's some of the elements that we cover beyond that. We all start with a product label and formula review process. There's a number of elements that go into that. Toxicology evaluation is one of them. It's particularly important for energy products these days, where we're looking to make sure you're not creating a rocket fuel type product that doubles or triples the amount of caffeine that is generally recommended by the FDA, which is 400 milligrams. We also look, of course, at the ingredients themselves, not just for banned substances, but to ensure they're actually legitimate according to DSHEA or other relevant guidelines in other countries. We also get into product claims. We know we're not supposed to make disease claims and so forth on products, but part of our work is to review labels, review the claims that are on labels, and guide our clients on how to make adjustments if needed to ensure compliance. And last but not least in that element is the actual label itself. So we dive into the format and compliance of the labeling guidelines themselves. As we like to say, the label is a window into your overall compliance, but oftentimes more than 90% of labels out there seem to have some sort of formatting or compliance issue. APA itself has a great guidance document. It's 27 pages on federal label requirements for herbal dietary supplements. Highly suggest you check that out if you're making new products, as it's a great guide to take you through that process. And the FDA as well has a number of examples that it has in association with meeting the guidelines of 21 CFR 101, the labeling guidelines. So please check those out as you're making your products. The other important thing that we do, as Paul and David alluded to, is GMP compliance reviews. Years ago, it used to be okay to rely on C of A's for a supplier qualification. That is no longer the case. You actually have to have specifications and you have to test your raw materials to verify those. Same is true of finished product specifications and testing. You would think that's fairly common out there in the industry, but when it comes to GMP violations, that's actually the #1 violation on the list, is a lack of finished product specifications and testing. So we help review those on behalf of our clients to make sure that's in line with what's expected for the industry. Testing for contaminants is also important. Talking about things like microbiological agents, heavy metals, pesticides, solvents, or other things that may come in through the environment. So we also review the contaminant testing profile. And of course, written procedures and batch records are vital for brands to have, as well as manufacturers. Keep that in mind as well. A lot of people out there, a lot of brands will often rely on manufacturers to handle their GMP compliance, but in fact, brands have their own requirements in that regard. So you need to have written procedures for things like adverse events or recalls and other things that are important to meet your compliance responsibilities. So shockingly enough, there still is plenty to do in the GMP compliance arena, showing some statistics from last year as far as the number of inspections and the number of warning letters. And still over half of the facilities out there are getting warning letters after an FDA inspection. So compliance is super important above and beyond. That's the beginning of your process. So please take that responsibility seriously. When it comes to banned substance certification, it's available to all levels of the industry. Most consumers out there will see it on finished products and see seals on finished products, but ingredients can also get certification, as can manufacturers. So I would certainly encourage all levels of the industry to consider how they can participate in certification and really improve their overall brand in the process. So many of you have seen GMP seals out there. There's seals on all kinds of products these days, but sometimes it's hard to figure out whether there's an actual audit that's done or whether it was a made-up seal. GMP, of course, is the law these days. It wasn't always that way, but now it is. And so some of the seals that you see on the left, again, there's confusion whether something has actually happened, an audit has actually happened. The ones on the groups on the right are offering GMP programs themselves. So you can look and see whether facilities are registered, and you'll have to check with your brands if you want to make sure that the facilities that they're being made in have been audited as well. Got hemp or CBD? Of course, you know, this is a new topic for sport nutrition. Sport nutrition brands are getting into this game, as it seems like is everybody these days, and certifications available to this industry as well. So similar providers are offering facility audits here. Our friends at NSF are doing their contents tested and certified program for hemp these days, and we're offering our certified CBD program, which ties together banned substance testing, label verification, contaminant testing, and GMP compliance reviews. So if you've got CBD, there's plenty of issues to deal with, whether it's meeting label claims, whether it's making sure that THC limits are met, or that products are made in an appropriate fashion, or of course, the presence of banned substances is not wanted in them either. So, and certification is a global focus these days. We're excited that our products or ingredients are now in 60 countries around the world. Got a couple more to fill in, but it's a global game. Even though we're talking about the American Herbal Products Association, third-party certification is relevant around the world today. And I wanted to hit on some of the future challenges for the industry as well. You know, folks in third-party certification, we sit in an interesting chair and have interesting issues come through our desks on a regular basis. And I wanted to highlight some of the things that we've dealt with in the past and some of the things we might be dealing with in the future, so we can keep that in mind as an industry and work together to address them. So ingredient dilemmas are always out there. We remember the days of designer stimulants. Some of those are still out there. There's a famous dendrobium extract example. Our friends at NSF were involved in 2013 in helping to expose the presence of beta-methylphenethylamine in the Craze dietary supplement. And that kicked off attention for phenethylamines as a whole. It actually prompted the World Anti-Doping Agency to prohibit phenethylamines and its derivatives, which has some interesting things to consider, as I'll get into when I talk about natural and environmental presence in a few minutes. Nootropics. Nootropics are brain enhancers, if you will. The sport nutrition category has expanded a bit to be really all-encompassing of performance enhancement in general, and the brain is, of course, part of that. Interestingly, within that category of nootropics, we've seen a battle begin between natural products and pharmaceutical drugs. I've got two on the right in piracetam and Noopept, which are surprisingly leaders in the realm of nootropic supplements these days, but neither one of them are legal ingredients. So if you're considering nootropics, please do your research and make sure you're using ingredients that are legal and legitimate. There's plenty out there, and there's a lot of exciting ones within the natural product community to consider. Performance enhancing drugs, of course, are things that we combat as a group. We've got things like SARMs out there. The SARMs That Can Harm campaign is out there. As an industry, we're addressing those and are hopefully going to be leaving those behind slowly but surely. We've also dealt with things like growth hormone releasing peptides, GHRPs, which hopefully are also in the rear view mirror. But one thing that's not is ecdysterone. In 2020, the World Anti-Doping Agency added ecdysterone to its monitoring program, which is fairly interesting for us to consider as a natural product community. Ecdysterone is one of a family of ecdysteroids in general. And ecdysteroids, these are plant and or insect hormones. But ecdysteroids in general are present in about 6% of plants. So I worry a little bit that the addition of ecdysterone itself to WADA's monitoring program could just be the tip of the iceberg in that regard. So there's a lot of things for us to think about as far as ingredients and which ones may or may not be banned in sport. In the case of ecdysterone itself, Popeye may be having some difficulties these days since it's actually a primary component in spinach extract. So you wouldn't think that a benign ingredient like spinach extract could be a problem until ecdysterone was added to the monitoring program. Also wanted to cover differentiating natural environmental presence from adulteration. I've got a couple examples here just to go over and explore the issue a little bit, but when WADA prohibited phenethylamines, it prompted us third-party certification providers to add an array of phenethylamine derivatives to our testing programs. And then we're finding those in a variety of products for some interesting reasons. So in the case of N-methylphenethylamine, NMPEA, it's actually present at fairly low levels, below 10 parts per million in a variety of foodstuffs. And when I mean foodstuffs, I'm talking about things like cereals, a variety of things well beyond just the dietary supplement realm, but it's certainly relevant within the dietary supplement realm as well. So part of our job has to be to differentiate natural presence that could be in a dietary supplement or dietary supplement ingredient from real adulteration. In the case of N,N-dimethylphenethylamine, that's another one we're testing for, but it also happens to be a GRAS flavoring additive. And the EPA did a poster presentation with the help of the University of Arizona, and they explored plants that were irrigated with treated wastewater effluent from Tucson, it happens to be. And the majority of plants, except for carrots, go figure, actually contained N,N-dimethylphenethylamine. So even irrigation of fields can pull up compounds that may be banned in sport. And again, it's our job to figure out whether the presence of those compounds is actually adulteration or whether there's some kind of natural or environmental presence that may have caused it. So I put on the right the definition of adulterated food or dietary supplements that the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act includes. And you'll note that, that you need to be able to distinguish something that's poisonous or deleterious, and that it has to be in an amount or a quantity that would be injurious to health. So again, that's what we're looking at when we're making the decisions on whether something could be of natural or environmental origin or not. We actually dealt with the case not too long ago where a client had difficulties with these compounds being present in a product, and we traced it back to gum arabic, which is a fairly common filler ingredient in products. So even something as benign as that could have presence of things banned in sport that folks like us have to differentiate from adulteration. So we get into a lot of issues in our realm, and we work very hard to treat them properly in order to protect the good quality brands that are out there. And if we do see problems like nootropics and illegal ingredients, we try to address those as well on behalf of the industry. So I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the opportunity to present in the inaugural Sports Nutrition Congress.